Today we have Sunil Lalvani, the Managing Director of BlackBerry India with us. Mr. Lalvani will talk to us about the changing focus of BlackBerry. Over the past couple of years, BlackBerry has been through tough times, but now they have come up with a 4-pillar strategy that is going to hopefully bring BlackBerry out of this current mess. If you could start off with the, on your 4-pillar strategy that you talked about for BlackBerry, and how do you see that as a total difference from where you started off, say, a few years back?
If you look at BlackBerry traditionally, we've always been branded as a smartphone company. Right. But if you look at BlackBerry itself as a company, our entire strategy, our entire model over the years has not been built on hardware alone. Hardware, which is predominantly devices, has been one part of our overall go-to-market strategy and the offerings that we have. A large piece and a large part of our revenue stream also comes from what we call as services and software, largely catering to enterprise customers, but also in recent times catering to consumers as well. Let me explain that a little more in detail. Essentially, BlackBerry has been branded as a device-centric company, but it's always been about the experience of a device. What got us the early years of success was email on the move. Corporates loved BlackBerry because it provided them secure email on the move wherever they are. So globally, when you land in any country, we operate out of 175 countries globally, covering about 650 carrier partners. Wherever a corporate user or a business user and executive would land amongst these 175 countries, he was virtually assured of email being delivered to his device wherever he would land. That was the experience enabled on a BlackBerry device. So it was really a combination of email on the go coupled with a BlackBerry device that got us a lot of initial success within the enterprise segment. Right. Over the years, as we rolled out BBM, BlackBerry Messenger, that took off in a very successful manner, especially in India amongst the youth. For instant messaging. So youth in particular in India took a liking to BBM because of the immediacy, the privacy, the reliability that BBM offered to have a group communication or a one-to-one chat. BBM also was enabled on BlackBerry devices. So if you see the way our business model has been over the years, it's always been hardware which has been enabling a service which has been offered on to end customers, whether it's email on the move or BBM on the move. It's always been enabled by devices offered by BlackBerry. That's been our traditional business model in the past. So it's a combination of services, software, and hardware. Coming to where we are now, we are expanding that portfolio of services and software offering, and devices will continue to be a key enabler in that offering. So if you want me to elaborate, what I could share is that if you look at our success around enterprise email or push email as we called it, to have push email on the move, you needed a BlackBerry device and you needed what was called as a BlackBerry enterprise server, which was managing and securing that data for that corporate wherever he or she may be globally. We've now extended the BlackBerry enterprise server to what we call as BlackBerry Enterprise Server 10, BES 10, which performs almost the identical or same functions of securing and managing your data on your device, but extending that to Android and iOS as well. So with BES 10 in the market, it's been in the market for a little over a year now. We have over 30,000 installations of BES 10 globally. And within that deployment, you'll have a mix of Android users, iOS users, BlackBerry 10 users, and even the BlackBerry OS users amongst that. So that's how we widened our portfolio, we widened our base. So we're catering to a lot more user community and customers right now, independent of which platform they're using amongst these 4 platforms. But the BES 10 server becomes our service offering to those customers. So that's one core part of what we call as our enterprise offerings or service offerings. Device is again an enabler here. The second key pillar of our approach to the market has been on BBM. So BBM in the past was all about consumer messaging or youth connecting to each other, group messaging, etc. We've extended BBM. Right now what we have is BBM Channels, which allows a brand, which allows consumers, etc. to stay connected to a particular brand or a youth icon or a particular sports star could connect to his fans using BBM Channel. So it's really a social media platform that allows various users to stay connected to the brand or vice versa.
How do you monetize a BBM channel in this way?
If you look at BBM today, we've had BBM channels. So let me step back a little bit. Actually, we opened up BBM cross platform late last year. In the early part of opening it up, we saw a huge uptake from Android and iOS users. So as on date, we have about 85 million users of BBM globally, which cuts across BlackBerry devices, BB10, Android and iOS. It's a socially connected community that stays connected on BBM. What we rolled out a few months ago was BBM Channels, which really allows brands to reach out to this target segment who are on BBM. The way we are taking it forward is, today you can monetize BBM channels through multiple ways. A brand could float a private channel and reach out to a select customer base to promote their offerings and keep it secure. That's the USP of BBM, and that's the USP of BBM channels. It gives you the privacy and the security and the reliability which many other social media platforms don't offer today. So that's where brands, so to give you an example, a bank, for example, could reach out to a segment of HNI customers, high net worth individual customers, and promote their offerings, a particular credit card offering or a particular special offering.
I mean, it's limited to just those individuals.
It can be limited. The way it would work is every BBM channel has a unique PIN number. That PIN number is an identity of that BBM channel. If the bank or that particular company or that particular brand chooses to keep it as a private channel, they can have only a closed user group subscribe to that particular PIN number, which will not be shared with the general public. That becomes a private social media platform, which is BBM channels for that particular brand. The flip side of that could be, say an example, a IPL channel or a particular Bollywood superstar who wants to float a channel and reach out to the fans, their fans, could float a BBM channel and publicize that PIN number to everyone, so everyone can subscribe. So we have the Mumbai Indians channel, which has just gone up with the IPL season just having started off. The Mumbai Indians channel has already a huge number of subscribers getting onto it. We also have an ESPN cricket channel for regular updates on what's happening globally on cricket. We have multiple channels on the media publication side. We have channels on in the automobile sector in a big way, because Mercedes, etc., promote a lot of their offerings on their public channel available. The other way of looking at channels is on the private side. We have corporates who have actually floated a channel to keep it restricted to the employees. So it's inter-office communication. A large corporate in India actually has gone live with their channel, restricting it to employees. So wherever the employees are across India, they subscribe to channel. They get real-time updates on the company news, company information, any kind of employee communication that goes down from the chairman's office or the managing director's office gets immediately delivered to the devices of the employees.
So do you have some kind of revenue share agreement? How does it work? I mean, once you set up a channel, how does in BlackBerry as such get revenues out of that?
So currently we haven't formally rolled out the monetization model of channels, because there are various levels of security that get built in. When you want a private channel and you want to restrict it, there's certain security levels which require content filtering and other elements which the corporate can deploy. There's a particular payment model for that. If you keep it as an open channel, it could be other forms of revenue stream like advertisements, etc. going forward. So this is early stage of BBM channel because we rolled it out only a couple of months ago. But what we are looking at already monetizing is BBM stickers. So about a couple of weeks ago, or I think a little longer over that, we've rolled out BBM stickers. So users of BBM now can download stickers at a particular cost. It's like downloading an application at a particular cost. And you have various options of stickers available. And it allows you to have a communication with a group or friends using BBM stickers. And that's the first step of monetization of BBM that we've initiated through stickers. And then we're going to take it forward to channels as well, both business to business channels, business to consumer channels, or just general consumer channels. So we'll have all models open as such.
Can you provide some more details on the eBBM strategy?
eBBM was a recent announcement we made at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. This has been fueled by the demand and the need that's come in from a lot of our corporate customers. If you look at the instant messaging arena today in the market, whether it's globally or even India, a lot of enterprise customers actually came back and told us that instant messaging is here to stay. People love using various forms of instant messaging tools. But the concern corporates have is how secure is that? If I'm working in a bank, if I'm working in a regulated industry and environment, if I'm working in any kind of FMCG or pharmaceutical company where there is data related to sales information, financial transactions available easily, how does that corporate protect that data from not being published on social media platforms which are publicly or externally used, commonly used today? So that was a concern area that has come in from our corporate customers, and they wanted a security feature built into it. So at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, we announced Enterprise BBM, which is eBBM. It's going to be a portfolio of offerings that's coming in under the eBBM suite, as we call it. The first offering from eBBM will be a service and offering called BBM Protected. Essentially, what BBM Protected will do is, on the user's device, he will have a BBM client. That BBM client will allow him or her to communicate to the external world of BBM users wherever he would like to communicate. But for his group company or fellow employees within his organization, colleagues, that communication of BBM will be secure, private and encrypted. How that happens is through the best server. So we deploy the best server or the best 10 server in the corporate environment. The BlackBerry devices of the employees get registered onto that best server. Every communication that these employees have within each other on BBM is encrypted. Both data at rest and data in transit is encrypted. And more importantly, for the corporate themselves, they can audit and log the communication that happens. So for example, if you and me are working in the same organization, our transactions can be audited and logged. If I leave the organization and move out,
you can block it off.
You can block it off. So my access to that corporate BBM or eBBM goes away. My access to my public BBM and external communication continues as is. So the corporate is absolutely secure. The data stays within the environment and they control, and it's encrypted because it's required for inter-colleague or inter-office communication. Outside, whatever moves out on the public side will be unencrypted and externally communicated to friends and colleagues. This becomes a very powerful form of social media platform which gives you the reliability, immediacy and the privacy that BBM is associated with. That puts BBM at a level different and higher than most other IM tools which don't offer these levels of security.
You talked about, getting Foxconn to do your manufacturing in the future.
Yeah.
How does that change your entire strategy? Does it mean that devices will be much more cheaper in the future, considering that you'll be made in China and things like that?
That's a good question, Anup. So essentially, if I just step back into the early part of our conversation, I was talking about the 4-pillared strategy of BlackBerry. The first pillar and the primary one we're driving forward is enterprise services, which is a combination of BES 10, BES, and we have a roadmap to BES 12, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that is our core focus around enterprise software and services. The other was BBM, which we just talked about. Both these services are enabled on BlackBerry devices, or even now on Android and iOS devices, non-BlackBerry devices. What we've seen is, in the past, BlackBerry manufactured devices, particularly in certain markets, or the entire supply chain and manufacturing happened in certain countries which were slightly higher on the cost ratio versus manufacturing in, say, low-cost destinations like China. And what we've seen in the last 12 to 24 months is this huge influx of Android devices, many of them coming in from low-cost destinations, where the cost of manpower, the cost of labor, etc., the whole supply chain and the process efficiencies on manufacturing help bring down the cost of those devices significantly lower. So, for example, last year we publicly stated that we are not in a price war with some of the low-cost Android devices. The reason we said that is we cannot roll out a sub-$100 BB10 device today in the market. Our economies in terms of manufacturing costs, supply chain, etc., don't permit us to do that. Now, that is what, as a model, we are moving towards Foxconn. So a lot of our manufacturing, supply chain, logistics is now going to be moving to Foxconn, for which we've signed a 5-year strategic partnership with Foxconn to take care of this entire piece.
Currently, what do you have your own manufacturing? Or
we do.
So you'll shut that down out?
No, so we still continue. So we have BB7 devices which still continue, and BB7 device, BlackBerry 7 devices still continue in market, and that continues. So recently we made an announcement of Bold 9900 continuing, and we continue to roll out those devices. We also have devices like 9720 or 9320, etc., in the market, which continue to be sold, especially in markets like India, which continue from BlackBerry stable. But what we are doing is for future devices, so in Mobile World Congress we announced 2 models, the Z3, which is a full touch device, and the Q20.
That's the one you're launching in Indonesia?
That's right. The first market to launch Z3 will be Indonesia. And what we are doing there is that Z3 will be the first market to roll out. That's the first product to actually come out from Foxconn stable. Q20, which is also called as BlackBerry Classic, is slated to come out later this year. We haven't finalized the date on that. That's going to have a QWERTY plus touch, but it's going to have the familiarity of the BlackBerry band or the BlackBerry belt, as we call it. So most users who are using BBOS devices in the past were very comfortable with the return button or the menu button or the trackpad. If you notice, our new devices don't have the trackpad and the menu button, because the operating system BB10 is so powerful, you don't need any button on the device. There's no home button also. It's all on a swipe gesture that you can operate it. But customers came back to us saying that we would like a trackpad or we would like the return button. So Q20 is that product which we announced in Barcelona. That is also going to be another product that's rolled out later this year. So coming back to the discussions on Foxconn, supply chain, manufacturing, logistics, management of all that is moving to Foxconn. It's a 5-year strategic partnership that we're announcing at Foxconn. So it shows our commitment to devices. We will continue to roll out devices in the market across various price bands. So if you look at our device portfolio in the market today, we already have devices on the BB7 platform ranging from sub 10,000 going up to BB10 with the Z30 at about 38,000. So you have a range of devices in the market today, and we'll continue rolling out more and more devices as Foxconn keeps producing and rolling it out for us.
How do you see, say, a comparison with, say, Samsung in the sense that you traverse almost the same bandwidth? So how do you see yourself in the future?
Very differently. Samsung, to their due credit, is a manufacturing powerhouse. They churn out, they do a lot of backward integration. So they do source and supply to various OEMs in the world. But that gives them process efficiencies, and they roll out a lot of because of the manufacturing of their own devices and backward integration. They roll out a lot of devices across various price points. In our scenario, we are not only about devices. What I mentioned earlier is devices is only one part of our business. It's all about the services. It's all about the software that goes in. So BlackBerry's strength comes in from the operating system that we have, which is built on the QNX operating system, which is now called the BB10. It's built on the security DNA, which has always been our core strength, especially in the enterprise or regulated environment. It's built on services like BBM, now extending to BBM Channels or eBBM. So our offering is not about a hardware or hardware specs alone. It's about a combination of services that get bundled with the hardware, which we take to market. So our business model is extremely different than the likes of Samsung and some others in the market.
Mm-hmm. Could you provide us some details on this QNX strategy?
Sure. So the fourth pillar, or what we call is the pillar of our revenue model going forward, is QNX. Now, a little bit of a historical perspective of QNX, because outside of North America, very few people knew about QNX. QNX as a company has been around for more than 2 decades now. And QNX powers some of the most mission critical processes and applications in the world. To illustrate the example, QNX is used currently in NASA space missions. It's used in the US or North American railroad system. It's used in a lot of healthcare equipment in North America. It's used in most of the leading automobile companies in North America and Europe. Most of the leading brands in the world, auto brands in the world, use QNX. In terms of power plants, a lot of them are using QNX. So what we've seen is QNX as an operating system is extremely reliable, extremely secure, extremely stable. And that's what gets it into the embedded systems which are used by many of these. So classic example is GE. As one of the oldest customers of QNX worldwide for their wind turbine generation plants, they use QNX as an embedded software in their plants. So power plants, nuclear power stations, NASA space missions, railroad systems, automobile, all work in very stringent environments, whether it's environmental or virtually zero downtime, which is allowed on that. So it needs mission critical operations. It meets the needs of mission critical operations like these industries do. So QNX as a company has been around for many years, servicing the needs of these organizations. BlackBerry acquired QNX a few years ago. We took the QNX architecture, the core QNX operating system, and we rebuilt on that to come up with BB10. So our new operating system called BlackBerry 10 is actually built on the QNX architecture, the core QNX platform. Now, with QNX, what we are doing is we keep hearing analysts like IDC, Gartner, etc., talking about the Internet of Things. We look around us, and in many ways, it is emerging as a growing need. But indications are that going forward in the next 5 to 6 years, the Internet of Things is going to be real, which is connected objects, connected things, connected cars. And that's where QNX fits in very well. So it really powers some of these most mission critical applications. And QNX can be embedded into a lot of these mobile endpoints, not only smartphones, but a lot of mobile endpoints that help the entire ecosystem of Internet of Things evolve further. So that's our fourth pillar of revenue stream that we're taking forward, including markets like India, where we believe there's going to be a further explosion of the number of connected endpoints that are going to come. So you look at companies like IBM or Cisco, when they talk about Internet of Things or the connected world, etc. That's truly what's going to happen in the next few years, which is machine-to-machine communication, which is going to require reliability, security, stability of platform. And I think that's where QNX fits in very well. So QNX is our core, also one of our core pillars of revenue model going forward.
Are there any key companies that you're working with on QNX? I mean,
in India?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in India, we're already in discussion with quite a few leading automobile companies because of the success we've seen of QNX in most of the leading automobile companies worldwide. A lot of the Indian auto companies are showing a lot of interest. So we've already started discussions with a couple of them in terms of how to get QNX embedded into vehicles. What this could mean for the vehicle manufacturer or the auto manufacturer is infotainment within the cars, or auto safety, which becomes a big requirement in on Indian roads in particular. The QNX intelligence actually gets into the automobile and advises and updates information related to the health of the car, which requires a proactive service, or what particular part needs a proactive service or addressing. So that's one element of what we are doing with QNX. We also already have a deployment with a leading engineering company in India who's already deployed QNX. So that's one of our key deployments already done in QNX. Again, that comes into do with reliability and stability of the platform in very rigid and high environmental specifications that they needed. And QNX is very stable as a platform. So we've already rolled it out in heavy engineering industries. We're looking at automobile. And the third sector which we're really looking at tapping is healthcare. So BlackBerry made this announcement just barely 48 hours ago about investment into a company called Nant Health in North America. And that's where Nant Health and BlackBerry's platform could help us evolve further into healthcare applications, healthcare industry, relying on the stability and the platform that QNX offers.
Is it like the Fitbit kind of bands, or there's more to it?
There's more to it. There's a lot more. What we already do in India, for example, not to do with Nant Health, but what we do in India is patient bedside monitors, whether it's an ECG parameter or any kind of MRI scan, CT scan. Through the peripherals that are built by some of our ecosystem partners in India, you can actually have that data, which is an ECG parameter or a CT scan, transmitted to a BlackBerry device of the doctor. Now, where BlackBerry's USP here is that we rely on our network, which provides the push technology and the compression and the security. So wherever a doctor may be and whatever time of the day or night, he gets the ECG report on his device. He can quickly look at the parameters of that. If there's an abnormality, he can quickly call the nurse or the doctor, the junior doctor, the attendant, and say, start administering this drug, I'm on my way. So it can be a big difference between life and death of a patient, because you're getting virtual real-time information from a patient bedside monitor onto a doctor's device, irrespective of where the doctor is. So we've actually had cases in India where we've rolled this out and managed to contribute our bit to society as well.
This thing is, I mean, as large corporates are going towards the BYOD model, how do you see that impacting you? And considering that at one point large corporates had BlackBerry as a their own key determinant.
That's, I think, a very relevant question. We've been asked this many times. So if you look at BlackBerry's DNA, look at BlackBerry's strength over the years, as I mentioned, it was built around secure email on the move, managed predominantly through what we called as BlackBerry Enterprise Server. But the fact was, if you needed to deploy a BES, you needed a BlackBerry device, or vice versa. If you wanted a BlackBerry device and you wanted to secure it, you needed a BES server. The market in the last 24 months, 12 to 24 months has evolved. It's moved towards low-cost Android devices. Corporates, to balance out CapEx versus OpEx, have actually opened up to BYOD in the market. And we truly believe in BlackBerry that BYOD is here to stay. It's only going to grow. So the more and more BYOD adoption will take place in corporates. But the fundamental piece within BYOD, whether you call it bring your own device, bring your own application, is that corporates are paranoid about security, especially when you look at regulated industries like financial services or BPO, KPO, IT services, government. They're paranoid about security. If you look at the recent Heartbleed bug that was reported very recently, or you look at the number of attacks India has had as a destination, whether it's malware, whether it's bugs, the kind of spyware that's happening. So stuff like that is something that corporates are increasingly getting paranoid. So it's a very difficult and tough balancing act for a corporate CIO. Do I allow BYOD? If I do allow BYOD, how do I ensure that the data in my corporate environment is secure? So to answer your question, what we found in the last year plus is that while corporates allowed BYOD, they wanted a solution like BES to manage and secure the corporate data on a user's personal device. Whether it's an Android and iOS, it doesn't matter. Can we get the similar levels of security that BlackBerry's been known to offer? So we rolled out what we call as BES 10 last year. This was around early last year, around the time we launched BB 10. So in February last year, we launched BES 10. Essentially what BES 10 does, BlackBerry Enterprise Server 10 does is, it's a single management server that takes care of Android, iOS, BlackBerry 10 and BlackBerry OS devices. one management console can take care of all these devices, tablets or smartphones on this platform. Extremely powerful because it gives the CIO and the IT team the ability to manage these devices irrespective of them being a personal device or a company owned device. What we are doing in taking this forward is, again, a recent announcement we made in Barcelona at the Mobile World Congress is we are evolving this platform to BEST 12. So BEST 12, which is due to be announced or released by the end of the year, will be an amalgamation or a combination of BEST 5, which has been our biggest enterprise success story till date in terms of the number of devices rolled out, and BEST 10, which cuts across Android and iOS and BB10. It's amalgamating the best functionalities and features of BEST 5 and BEST 10 and rolling out a single server with a single management console called BEST 12. And BEST 12 itself will add on Windows mobile support as well. So Windows 8, Android, iOS, BlackBerry OS, BlackBerry 10 will all be supported on one single server. Now that's a big cost saving for the enterprise, because irrespective of, if you look at all these 4 or 5 platforms, you have majority of the operating systems in the world covered, on majority of smartphones covered. So one server will really manage multiple devices. At launch, currently we have about 30,000 users on a single server that can be supported, with plans to scale it beyond. So corporates are loving the roadmap we are sharing with them on the enterprise side, that BlackBerry has been known to secure BlackBerry devices. In the last 1 year, we've opened up BEST to call it BEST 10 and open it up to Android and iOS. Our roadmap later this year will be BEST 12, which adds on Windows and continues to do all the things on the security and device management that we are known to do. The other element around that, Anup, is that if you look at applications, more and more corporates are walking into the work, more and more employees are walking into the corporate environment with the need to use their personal applications, and the corporate wants to push the corporate applications. BEST 10 or going forward BEST 12 also takes care of mobile application management. So it's not only about mobile device management, MDM as we call it, it's also about mobile application management and the underlying architecture of security that BlackBerry brings in. So we really combine all these three, put together and roll out BEST 10 or going forward BEST 12.
I mean, this thing of, you're moving away from being a device company to being a software company. How does this pan out over the next few years?
If you look at historically also, BlackBerry traditionally, as I said, has been a combination of devices and services. But if you look at maybe historically about two or 3 years ago, it would be about 60% hardware globally and 40% services and software. Our most recent quarter results, which ended in February, indicated or showed that 63% of our global revenue came from services and software and 37% came from hardware. So it's a fundamental shift that's happening in the market, and that's largely to do with BYOD, with the fact that corporates are paranoid about security and they trust BlackBerry with their security and the MDM capabilities, and that's why we are seeing more and more traction on BEST 10. So it's here to stay. We're seeing our services, software offerings only going to grow from here. If you look at the size of the India market just on enterprise mobility, the most recent IDC data talked about and I can just reconfirm these exact numbers, but in 2012, the enterprise mobility market, which combines security, MDM, devices, etc. put together, was a little short of 400 million. By 2018, this market from under 400 million is expected to grow to 1.8 billion. Now, it's a reality, because if you look around us, the smartphone penetration is still pretty low. It's growing very fast, no doubt. The MDM adoption is just beginning to take off in the India market. Security is becoming a key requirement of all corporates. If you look at the combination of all these factors, the market is going to explode and grow to 1.8 billion in the next 5 years. That itself is a big opportunity for BlackBerry as a services and software generating company as well. So hardware will continue through alignment with Foxconn. We will continue rolling out multiple devices. But the fact is that we will be securing not only our devices, but also Android, iOS and Windows. And that's where a large chunk of services and software revenue will come. eBBM will have multiple offerings after BBM protected, which will also have a monetization model through the service piece. QNX again is largely a software driven approach which embeds itself into mission critical applications, will again have a revenue stream. So if you look at these four verticals, 3 out of these 4 verticals largely contribute to enterprise services and software, and the hardware will also coexist. So that's our model as well.
I mean, after these last couple of years being really tough years for you guys, so how do you see it forward? I mean, do you see yourself moving out into the black soon, or is there any strategy around that?
So our CEOs,
globally and in India, I mean, how do you see it yourself in India?
So we don't split the numbers by region or by country, but India is doing its fair bit to contribute back to corporate. We've had a good run over the last year and a year plus. We're seeing extremely good response to Z10. during the festive offer. So incidentally, we're actually celebrating our 10th year anniversary of BlackBerry's existence in India or presence in India. So we rolled out a festive offer for all our customers on Z10, and we were swamped with the response. It was amazing in terms of Z10 sales really picking up. We also extended an offer on Z30 recently, and we're getting excellent response on the devices. So it's shown a couple of things to us, that as a device, as a brand, and as a service offerings, a lot of Indian customers are adopting BlackBerry, whether it's on the enterprise services and software side, but positioning these devices at the particular price point that we have, we've seen a huge uptake on Z10 and Z30. So India is doing its bit to contribute back to corporate, whether it's in the form of hardware sales or services and software. On Best 10, we launched Best 10 in India late March last year, and in the first 10 months or less than a year, we've seen over 1,000 installations of Best 10 server in India. So in our own way, we're contributing back to the profitability of the company. In the words of our CEO, he hopes to turn around the scenario into a cash positive next year, which is our next fiscal year, which begins in March next year.
Has price cuts been one of the prime drivers in India for devices?
For device adoption?
Yeah.
It's been one of the factors. It definitely has. I won't deny that. Again, if you look at the launch of the BB10 platform, as I mentioned earlier, most of our devices on the BB10 side are manufactured in high-cost destinations. The economies of scale, manufacturing costs, supply chain equations, etc., didn't permit us to launch devices at a sub $150 price, for example. India is a price-sensitive market. So to that extent, the customers loved the operating system. They found BB10 to be extremely powerful, extremely responsive. Till today, it's got the fastest browser amongst any other platform in the industry. You can run third-party tests, and it's an extremely fast browser. We got a lot of a lot of positive response and feedback from our customers and consumers. The only element was that your price is a little high. The moment we launched this festive offer, which is a combination of factors that we rolled it out, we've just got a huge number of orders that's come in on Z10. It's flying off the shelves, and now on Z30 as well. So I would say it's been positive for us, and that's our bid back to corporate.
Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you so much. Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you.